The Bowgun is essentially the only weapon in Monster Hunter where there's a dedicated community just for creating builds. There's a ton of awesome greatsword trickshot videos out there, but the process for figuring out which greatsword you should be using is basically just choosing the larger of two numbers. Bowguns, on the other hand, have way more factors to consider. There's 18 offensive ammo types, each one having a unique series of armor skills, which means you need a different build for every ammo type, and then of course there's the difference between light bowguns and heavy bowguns. There's a lot to consider, and unless you're proficient at reading all of the weird bowgun graphs, it can be really scary to try and decide on your own which gun you should be making so you don't feel like you're wasting your resources on a gun that ends up not performing like you think it should. Because of that, I don't think it's very surprising that there's a large amount of videos out there where the content basically boils down to, hey, just copy this build and you'll end up winning. But bowguns are basically the only weapon where there's any real theory crafting to do in terms of builds, and I think more people would be willing to engage with it if they really knew what they were looking for. So this video is really sort of geared toward beginners who maybe have never even played Monster Hunter before, or haven't specifically played Bowgun yet. I'm basically trying to include every single piece of general information I can, while also going into some of the math behind some of the builds and showing off why some things work and why some things don't. You can probably see the video length though, and I'll be honest, at this point in the recording, I don't even know how long it is. All I know is that my script is 16,000 words. But when I say every single piece of information I can think of, I mean literally everything I can possibly think of. I'll try to do my due diligence in timestamping everything well, so that way if you've got sort of like a general understanding how things work, you can skip around past the really basic information. So hopefully if you're just looking for something specific like an example build to follow, you'll be able to flip through the video and find what you're looking for. So, I think it's fair to say that bowguns sort of stand as the odd man out in terms of the cast of weapons in Monster Hunter. If you're new to the series or don't really know anything about bowguns in general, you might be wondering to yourself, like, what's the motivation to use the gun in the game where I could have a giant greatsword that does a bazillion damage? But if you browse online and look at basically any Monster Hunter related content or forums, you're going to immediately see people complaining about bowguns and saying that they're incredibly overpowered, and guess what? They're right. Trying to get my first purple orb so I could make the Magnum Malice light bowgun was a nightmare. I was doing 35 hunts, and each one lasted about 10 minutes, so I was farming forever trying to get this thing. Now that I've got it, I'm really disappointed in myself if a hunt takes more than like 5.5 minutes. It's a great weapon type for farming when you know you're going to have to do a bunch of hunts in a row to try to get some drops to like make an armor set or something, or maybe farm enough money to make a new weapon. Plus, it generally feels really good to be able to play through the game again, clapping the cheeks of every single monster who's ever given you a hard time. Plus, like I said, there's a ton of different bowguns, there's a ton of different ammo types, there's a lot of science to do, there's a lot of builds to try out, and so if you like doing theory crafting, bowgun's really sort of the only weapon in the game that really allows for that level of creativity. Now, the elephant in the room in regards to theory crafting is that even though Monster Hunter Rise is just now coming out on Steam, the game has been out for almost a year now. All the builds have been tested, the math is done, there's really nothing new to discover about Monster Hunter Rise in the current state of the game. That is, of course, until Sunbreakers comes out this summer. So while you're probably not going to do any innovating right now, keep in mind that like this will be all preparation for the DLC that eventually comes out, where there's going to be a ton of new stuff to explore. It's going to be a huge number of new monsters, which means a bunch of new weapons, a bunch of new builds, a bunch of new skills. There'll be all sorts of new stuff to try out. So that's really what I sort of want to prepare you for, is when that comes out, you'll be able to actually be participating in the process of trying out all the new stuff so you can be the one to figure out what's good. Now, that being said, if you've never used the bowgun before, or if you've even never played Monster Hunter before, I'd honestly recommend that you at least beat the game once with one of the other melee weapons. First reason is that if you have a bowgun equipped, either light or heavy, you're taking 40% more damage from monsters. Imagine you were playing one of the Souls games and you just had naturally 40% less health. You're only allowed 3 feints per fight before the game kicks you back to the lobby and you have to redo the entire fight. And so if you're new to the game, that's going to be pretty demoralizing. Secondly, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of bowgun builds, but they're not all good against all monsters. Let's say for example you make a fire elemental bowgun. There's going to be a solid third of the cast, including a lot of endgame monsters, who you do not do a lot of damage to. So in addition to making multiple weapons and the cost and resources associated with that, in addition to the armor sets, the ammo itself is also a big investment. I buy bullets and crafting materials by the thousands, and if you're new to the game, that's going to really cut into your savings. Plus, you're going to need raw crafting materials to craft more ammo in the middle of hunts when you run out, and you can't buy those. So you're either going to have to farm it yourself, which sucks and takes a long time and you should never ever do, or you can use the in-game farm, the Argosy, in order to get these things for you. But maxing it out requires a lot of game progression and also leveling up your Palicos. Plus, that's not free either. The only way to actually get the resources is to spend Kamura points, which you only get through game progression. Plus, in order to even make the best bowguns that have access to the best ammo types, you're going to need to basically be at the end game anyways. Playing the game first with a melee weapon is a great way to not only build resources, but it's going to be a great way to learn the fights in a way that you're not punished too harshly for it because of the increased damage that you're taking if you were to have a bowgun. So, right off the bat, I think the question, what bowgun should I use, is honestly not a great place to start. As I said in the intro, there's 18 different offensive ammo types, but the thing is that you can't focus on all of them. A huge number of the skills that you're going to want to be basing your build around will only work on one of those ammo types. Pierce Ammo Up is a great skill that gives you 20% more damage, but it only works on Pierce Ammo. Similarly, Slugger increases the amount of knockout damage that you do, which means you're going to be stunning monsters significantly more, but it only works on sticky ammo. So, because of that, I think the real place to start with any sort of build is deciding what ammo type you actually want to use. But if you're watching this video, maybe you don't have any idea what kind of ammo type you want to use. So, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of all the ammo types in the game and how they work. At the end of the video, I'll also be running through builds for all of these ammo types, so try to pick one or two that you think look really fun and that you can focus on later when it comes time to actually start making your weapon. Normal ammo is just the regular shot that works basically exactly how you would expect the bowgun to work. You shoot it, it hits the monster, it deals damage. There's 3 different kinds of normal shots: Normal 1, Normal 2, and Normal 3, and the only difference between them is how much damage they do. Normal 1 does the least, Normal 3 does the most. Now, to immediately start editorializing, normal ammo is awful, and to figure out why, we're going to need to open the Hunter's Notes. The Hunter's Notes is a comprehensive list of all the monsters in a game, which includes all of their different body parts and how much damage they take from different sources. The way to read this chart is that the lower a number is, the less damage they're going to take from a source. The higher the number is, the more damage they take. I personally think that graphing their numbers this way is pretty unintuitive, and so the way that I remind myself how it works is by looking at a monster with a clear elemental affinity. So if you look at the ice column in Gosharog, who's covered in ice, you'll notice it's 0, which means low damage. Same with Rathalos. The fire number is 0. He shoots fire everywhere, so no fire damage. But for now, we want to focus on the third category, which is bullet. I'm just kidding, it's actually called shot damage. When you look at some of the early game monsters, you're going to notice that all the numbers are pretty high, which means you're going to be able to basically bully these guys no matter what weapon you bring with you. But as we start to get deeper into the list and start looking at the endgame monsters, you're going to notice that the numbers next to the bullet column are all pretty low. So, I obviously can't know this for sure, but I would suspect the reason that resistance to bullet damage is so high across the board is because in Monster Hunter World, bowguns were also pretty broken, and this was some sort of attempt to balance them out. And technically it worked. The ammo types that were affected by this change are definitely weaker than they were in their World version. As a result, normal ammo, which doesn't have any cool special abilities to back it up, is the worst ammo type. Piercing ammo is a little bit strange, but I think it'll make sense when you also watch the video that accompanies this. When you shoot normal ammo, it hits the monster and then it's gone. But when you shoot pierce ammo, it continues all the way through the monster, dealing damage the entire time until it finally comes out the other end. This makes it inherently more useful against the really long snake-like enemies this game has, like Almudron or Mizutsune. But of course this also means that the bullet type is less effective against very small monsters like Volvidon. Positioning is also very important on this ammo type because you want to be shooting long ways down a monster instead of sideways where you're not going to get nearly as many hits off. This is a really strong ammo type. That's partially just because the design of pierce ammo makes it really strong against a large number of monsters in the cast, but also because the best guns that use pierce ammo also have a ton going for them, like for example great raw stats or affinity. And just like normal ammo, Pierce ammo also comes in level 1, level 2, and level 3 variations. Spread ammo is the shotgun of the game. There's a couple different things you can do to expand your range, but it's never going to get so far that you're out of the danger zone. That being said, there's a lot of interesting ways to build spread ammo, including my personal favorite, which revolves around using a shield. Unfortunately, spread ammo also suffers from the same issue as normals, where resistance against it starts to get pretty high towards the end of the game. This is a fun ammo type though, but it's one I definitely recommend once you've already got another few builds up and running. Once again, this ammo type also has level 1, level 2, and level 3 variations. Shrapnel ammo would be the worst ammo if I even considered it a traditional offensive ammo type, which I don't. The problem here is that just from a design standpoint, shrapnel ammo was designed to be bad. Shrapnel ammo is more like homing ammo. All you have to do is shoot in a monster's general direction, and all the pellets will be automatically distributed among the monster's body parts. This is bad, because monsters generally have, weak spots, and so having most of your bullets not hit the monster in the weak spot is just obviously bad. It can be kind of funny to bring on the rampage missions where the counter gong goes off and all you have to do is just sort of generally aim at monsters and you'll see all these huge numbers going off, but even in that context, it's actually not any better than any of the other ammo types. Honestly, shrapnel ammo is so bad that I didn't even bother to make a build for it to include in the video. If you want to use a shrapnel ammo build, you can take all the things that you learned in this video and try to figure out one for yourself, like a homework assignment or something. Elemental ammo is just normal ammo, but with elemental damage. There's a lot of skills that are unique to elemental damage, which will elevate this above normal ammo, and that also means there's a lot of room for messing around with builds. This also includes the fact that in Rise we get access to a new variation of elemental ammo, piercing elemental ammo. Piercing elemental ammo is weird. Functionally, it's identical to pierce ammo, but the catch is that it'll only damage a monster 3 times before disappearing. On one hand, this is nice because it means it's no longer not very effective against small monsters, but of course this also means that it's not super effective against huge monsters. Piercing elemental ammo is sort of more geared towards the heavy bowgun than the light bowgun, and there's a bunch of reasons for this, including the way rapid fire works and the capacity size for light bowgun elemental pierce. But both ammo types are still usable on either bowgun, and I'll be talking about builds for both. Elemental ammo is really kind of a niche ammo type, just because unless a monster is really weak to the specific element, you're not going to be doing a ton of damage. That being said though, if a monster is really weak to a specific element, you'll be completely shredding them. Cluster ammo is an ammo type that has a unique firing method. Instead of shooting it off like a gun, you put the gun on the ground and shoot it upward like a mortar, which the mortar then lands on the enemy, and then breaks off into a bunch of little mortars, which then break off and explode. A small number of heavy bowguns, and by a small number I mean exactly 2, have something called level shot for cluster ammo, which means that you shoot it forward like a rocket launcher instead of upward like a mortar. It's more reliable, but it doesn't actually increase the amount of damage you do. The problem with cluster ammo is that the custom animation takes so long to fire that you basically need the monster to already be locked down from another ammo type entirely. You can also only bring a very small amount of cluster ammo with you before you need to completely go back to base and restock. Cluster ammo is definitely best thought of as a secondary ammo type, something you use when, let's say a monster is stuck in a trap, where you just want to squeeze out some extra damage during an opportune time. Cluster ammo can't crit, which also means it can't negative crit from a weapon with negative affinity, so if you see a weapon with a really high raw number but negative affinity, you don't need to worry about cluster ammo being impacted. Wyvern ammo is an ammo type that only the heavy bowgun can use. It's a unique firing method that you have to kneel down and charge up before you shoot, but it deals an insane amount of damage. I put it next to cluster ammo for a reason. It basically fills the exact same role. Sticky ammo deals stun damage, which is capable of knocking out a monster. If you think this sounds particularly useful, you're right. This is really going to enable a lot of other builds, because as it turns out, being able to stun a monster 10 times per fight while you unload into it for free is really strong. It's worth noting that because stun is basically a status ailment, if you go online and do multiplayer hunts, the monster's resistance to stun is going to increase exponentially, meaning you're not going to be able to do this nearly as often in multiplayer. Now, do you remember when I talked about normal ammo and resistance to shot ammo types? Well, good news. Sticky ammo doesn't deal shot type damage. Instead, it deals impact damage like the hunting horn or the hammer. Now, I do want to go on a quick diatribe about stun values. Unfortunately, I can't be as specific as I'd like to about this information because none of it is really available out in the open to the player. In order to get specific numbers, I would need to data mine the game, which I am unable to do, and I tried to look online in an admittedly brief Google search, and I couldn't find any hard numbers there either. So instead, I'm going to show you some video of a build I tried in order to illustrate this point. So, there's 3 different kinds of sticky ammo: Sticky 1, Sticky 2, Sticky 3. There's also a skill in the game called Rapid Fire Up, which increases the damage of any ammo that you are able to rapid fire by 20%. A 20% damage boost on a skill is basically one of the most effective skills you can have. So, I'm looking at a gun that can rapid fire Sticky 1 ammos, and I'm thinking to myself, that should stun all the time, right? It's going to be a ton of damage. That is wrong. It will not stun anywhere near as often as the same build using Sticky 3s. This is because, like almost every single other thing in this game, there is some hidden multiplication going on in the background. The amount of stun damage you deal is going to be proportional to how much damage your stickies deal. This is true. But it's multiplied by some unknowable number. The only thing that I do know is that the multiplier on Sticky 3s is way higher than the multiplier on Sticky 1s, even rapid fired. The Magnum Aloe light bowgun can fire Sticky 3s. I use this gun all the time, and I can chain stun enemies with it all the time. I built a rapid fire sticky ammo gun for the purpose of this video, and the fight took me 11 minutes, during which time I had to go back to base twice because I ran out of ammo. This is made even worse by the fact that, again, because stun is like a status ailment, monsters get more and more resistant to it as you inflict it multiple times. I know that if I start a fight against Magnum Aloe, it's going to take 2 stickies to knock it out. By the end of the fight, it's going to take 7 or 8. If you're planning a build out, it's going to be really important to use Sticky 3s. Pretend Sticky 1 and 2s aren't real, they're not going to do what you want them to do. Lastly, sticky ammo can't crit or negative crit, so when you're planning out a build, just focus on raw damage. The final ammo type is slicing ammo. Slicing ammo, instead of shot type damage, deals cutting damage, like the greatsword or longsword. Because of that, monster resistance to it is way lower across the board, meaning slicing ammo has basically taken the role from normal ammo as the vanilla DPS option. And even though it functions similarly to sticky ammo, where it latches onto the enemy before detonating, slicing ammo can crit. Now, for all of the status ammo, I'm going to assume you know what the status effects do in this game. The bullets just do that. Poison ammo is never worth using because it's so little damage over time, you'd just be wasting your time shooting that instead of a bullet. Paralysis and sleep ammo are both absolutely insane because it's free setup for something like Wyvern or cluster ammo, or just unloading into a monster as much as possible for 10 seconds. Demon, armor, and recovery ammo all give buffs to your teammates that you shoot with them, but they're basically worthless because you can't shoot them at yourself. Exhaust ammo is mostly useful for guns that don't have access to sticky ammo, because sticky ammo can also inflict the exhaust status ailment because it's impact damage. Now, the great thing about status ammo is that it's consistent. During a regular hunt, if you're using dual blades or something, it's really impossible to time when you're going to inflict paralysis. But, for example, I know that it only takes 2 sticky 3s to knock out a Magnum Aloe. This is true no matter how many different runs I attempted in. It's always only going to take 2 stickies. The same is true for paralysis ammo. It'll always take the same number of paralysis ammo shots to paralyze a monster. Now, that number will differ from monster to monster, but against monsters of the same species, it'll always be the same number. This is really nice because you can prep a monster for paralysis, wait, and then use it again at an opportune time. Let's say a Tigrex takes 5 paralysis ammo hits in order to be paralyzed. All you have to do is hit him with 4 paralysis shots, switch back to normal ammo, and then wait until, for example, he's about to switch zones and add another 40 seconds onto the fight. You hit him with that last paralysis ammo, all of a sudden, he's stunned, not going anywhere. Very often, this will completely interrupt a monster's AI that's telling them to run to a different zone. This is really good for speedruns. Memorizing this number will also make it so that you don't accidentally inflict a status ailment at a really bad time. Like, for example, if a monster was really far away, you paralyze it, you have to spend that entire time just closing the distance. So once you've got an idea for which ammo type you're interested in, the next thing you need to do is figure out which guns are shooting what kind of ammo, and that info is broken up across 2 different screens. This first screen is the one you're going to be the most familiar with because all weapons share this screen, but this one's just got a couple additional pieces of information. The big one is obviously attack. Now, unlike other weapons, attack is really important, but it's not everything. It's very, very rare that 2 guns are going to be similar enough that a small difference in damage is going to break that tie. But big damage differences definitely will. Let's say you were making a cluster sticky heavy bowgun. Both the Rhinopolis gun and the Teostra gun have the exact same ammo capacities for sticky 3s and cluster 3s. But the Rhinopolis gun has 160 base attack, and the Teostra gun has 230, meaning the Rhinopolis gun is absolutely worthless. Decoration slots work basically the same way. You're never going to want to choose a gun just based on the decorations, but they can be a nice tiebreaker or just a nice bonus for a gun you're already planning on using. Now, getting into the bowgun specific ammo on this screen, we've got Deviation, Recoil, and Reload. Here's the secret. Ignore Recoil and Reload entirely. The info you see on this screen is supposed to be like an average approximation of how fast the gun reloads across all of its ammo types and how much recoil the gun has across all ammo types. Problem with that is, like I said, we're only building around 1 or 2 ammo types. So who cares about the reload speed of the 15 other ammo types we're not using? Now, the last number, Deviation, is important, but similar to the number of slots, you're not really going to use a gun based on Deviation. High Deviation is more of an indication of how many hoops you're going to have to jump through with this gun. Deviation is mid-air bullet curve that affects all ammo types, except for the ones that don't actually have a bullet that travels, like spread ammo or wyvern fire. Now, keep in mind that even a gun with no deviation is going to have a little bit of bullet scatter. Bullets can hit anywhere within the little reticle, just like any other FPS game. So I'm going to show off a couple different levels of deviation so you know what you're in for. This is our mid deviation, middle deviation to the right. While it does significantly impact the trajectory of a bullet, it's also predictable and consistent, so you can compensate for it when aiming. Now, in addition to left deviation and right deviation, there's also LR deviation, which means the bullets have a 33% chance of either going left, right, or straight. This might seem totally untenable, but keep in mind that deviation works like a curve and isn't like a straight diagonal line. Meaning, if you just get close enough to a monster, you can basically figure out a distance where your bullets will hardly curve at all and you'll be able to hit them consistently. This is obviously more useful for the ammo types where you want to be closer to the monster anyways, and less useful for something like pierce ammo where you're at a distance. Similarly though, this also means that there are distances where basically none of your shots will hit if they veer off to either side. But so long as your shots are only going either left or right, it's possible to compensate for even severe deviation. Or if you just want to get rid of it entirely, you can use the Sniper Jewels, which are a level 1 decoration slot, in order to reduce your deviation by 1 level. Keep in mind though that LR deviation can only ever be brought to 0, you can't ever reduce it to just L or just R. If you have a Sniper Jewel equipped, it'll actually update your deviation levels on the screen. You can see that happening in green. Now, this is the ammo screen, and this is where the important stuff lives. Firstly, we've got 4 icons at the top. The orange arrows indicate that the ammo type will be rapid fired, but I'll talk more about this in the light bowgun section. Reason being, this is only a skill that light bowguns have. The blue arrow indicates that the ammo type will be single fired and automatically reloaded after every single shot. If you see this icon next to any ammo type, know that that ammo type will be completely unusable. Let's say you have 2 guns and they both fire normal 2 ammo. Other than their ammo capacity, they're identical. Gun A has a clip size of 2, Gun B has a clip size of 1. Gun A, just by virtue of having 1 more ammo capacity, will deal 50% more damage than Gun B. This is just due to how much time Gun B is going to spend reloading. So obviously, being forced to reload after every single shot is a massive DPS loss. Even if you equip the ammo up skill, which will increase your ammo capacity by 1, you'll still have to reload after every shot. If you see this icon next to an ammo type you were planning on using, just look elsewhere. The footprints indicate that you're able to move and shoot at the same time. Not being able to move and shoot isn't a deal breaker, but it's really convenient being able to, especially for the light bowgun where the whole point of the weapon is mobility. Real quick, in a previous version of the game, there was a bug introduced that meant that guns where you could not move and shoot at the same time, you actually shot faster than guns that could. This was introduced in the 3.0 patch, which was the biggest and last patch to the game, which means there's a lot of build videos out there that include this information in their build suggestions. This has since been fixed and is no longer true, so being able to move and shoot is now only a benefit. Last icon, the green arrows, mean that you can reload and move at the same time. Now, this screen is where we see the actual reload and recoil info of the ammo type we're looking at. Obviously, you want both of these values to be as low as possible, but you can also offset them with skills. Keep in mind though that both of these skills can only go to level 3, so there's only so much you can do for some weapons. But, just like Deviation, you can also equip the skills beforehand and look at this screen to see the updated values. So, if all your slots are full but you're still not at the lowest reload speed, you might want to either try to free up some slots or just start checking for other weapons. Having fast reload speed instead of fastest is still manageable but annoying. Having average recoil instead of low recoil though means the gun's basically unusable and you should check for a different one. Keep in mind if you've got a light bowgun and you're still at average recoil, it's possible to drop it down one level lower even if your skill slots are full by using the customization option. But more on that in the light bowgun section. When the final build is fully assembled, your recoil should be at low and your reload should be at least fast if not fastest. The other really big factor we're looking for on this screen is ammo capacity. Whatever base number you see here can only ever be increased by 1 with the skill ammo up. Getting ammo up to skill level 3 only increases the amount of ammo types it affects, doesn't actually give you more ammo. This is going to be a really big factor in identifying the good weapons, weapons with a high clip size. I talked about the difference between clip size 1 and clip size 2 being 50% more damage. Reloading less is more DPS, but those numbers tend to matter less when clip sizes get higher. The difference between a gun with a clip size of 7 and a clip size of 8 is going to be pretty minor. Now, unfortunately, there's just no sort of calculus you could do to figure out exactly how much of a DPS bonus ammo capacity is. Because, keep in mind, it's definitely possible for a gun with way higher raw to outperform a gun with less raw but higher clip size. And this is where testing comes in. And that's a big part of why this guide exists, so you don't have to do that annoying testing yourself. It does stand to reason though that unless there's a big difference between the raw attack values of two guns, the gun with more ammo capacity is going to be better. For some weapons though, you really won't have a choice. All light bowguns capable of firing sticky 3s can only fire 1 per clip. Rapid fire elemental ammo is 2 clip across the board except for a single gun that has 3. The last category we want to be looking at per weapon is the rampage skill. Now, some weapons are made or broken by their rampage skills. For example, the Engineer Light Bowgun has access to sticky 3s, which is great for knockdowns, but nothing to take advantage while the monster's out. But with the Rampage skill Cluster Effect 2, it now has access to Cluster 2 ammo. Similarly, the Puke Heavy Bowgun has access to Spread Effect 2. This increases the ammo capacity of Spread 3 to 8 shots per clip, which is massive. This has made it basically the most popular Spread Heavy Bowgun online. The Rathalos Light Bowgun has access to Elemental Exploit. This increases the amount of elemental damage you do against a monster weak to that specific element. Since you should only be using elements a monster's weak to anyways, this is a great bonus. Anti-Aerial Species and Dragon Exploit both give plus 5% raw damage and work against a huge portion of the cast. These Rampage skills obviously won't compensate if a weapon's raw damage is just too low or if they have bad access to ammo types, but it really does elevate a lot of weapons from good to great. A note about the Rampage weapons though. Rampage guns allow you to pick 5 of any of these skills, and you might be thinking, wow, I'm allowed to pick any 5? I could make something absolutely nuts. But that's not really the way it works. The gun's got 5 slots, but only certain skills can go in certain slots. So, for example, it's impossible to do Attack Surge and Affinity Surge. The Rampage Heavy Bowgun can actually turn out pretty good, but the Rampage Light Bowgun is beyond worthless. Do you remember the section about sticky ammo where I said I made a gun and the hunt took 11 minutes? Yeah, that was the Rampage gun. Alright, now for the difference between light bowguns and heavy bowguns. Light bowguns have the advantage of being significantly more mobile. Their move speed is more comparable to something like Dual Blades or Sword and Shield. They generally have lower raw attack than heavy bowguns and also suffer from lower ammo capacity, reload speed, and recoil. Their special action, Wyvern Blast, are mines that you can plant and they'll detonate when they're hit by a source of damage, up to 5 times. They deal stun damage, so they're a great way to inflict knockout. But because you need to hit a monster in the head in order to inflict knockout, it's definitely more useful as a stunning tool against specific monsters like Diablos. However, they can be reliably used against a monster who's already on the ground stunned. Dropping all 3 mines on their head and blowing them up is going to be a big boost. Keep in mind though, that if a monster would be stunned by the amount of stun damage you're inflicting while it's already on the ground, nothing will happen and you'll essentially waste that stun. the stun values will roll over and you need to re-inflict the status ailment all over again. You start off a hunt with 3 mines and they each take 60 seconds to recharge. They only recharge 1 at a time though, so if you use all 3 at once, you'll get 1 back per minute for 3 minutes instead of getting them all back 1 minute later. They also only last 65 seconds when placed. After that, they'll explode 1 last time and disappear, no matter how many charges were left. Light Bowgun's biggest boon is access to rapid fire ammo. Rapid fire allows you to fire off 3 slightly weaker bullets in quick succession for the cost of a single ammo. The final damage calculation ends up being that, for most ammo types, rapid fire does about double the damage of a normal shot. Rapid Spread 2 does 135 damage, while Spread 2 Normal does 64. Rapid Normal 2 does 93, up from 45. However, some ammo types get a much smaller damage multiplier. Slicing, Elemental Pierce, Sticky, and Status ammo only do 2 shots for 1.4 times damage. This is definitely for balance reasons. Double damage slicing ammo would be completely insane and would be the highest DPS weapon in the game, no contest. But still, even with the 1.4 times upgrade, it's an objective and pretty major damage upgrade. The biggest caveat is that you can only fire ammo up to level 2. No level 3 ammo type can be rapid fired. You also can't rapid fire Sticky 2, meaning you can only rapid fire Sticky 1s. But I've talked about why this build is terrible. But, that being said, it's not like rapid fire ammo is completely unbeatable in the DPS department. This harkens back to our talk about normal ammo, where we talked about monster resistances. Like I said, rapid fire ammo reduces the amount of damage that every individual shot does. It just increases the number of shots. If a monster's resistances are too high, it's possible that it reduces the amount of damage by such a percentage that it ends up being weaker than just a level 3 shot, which have a significantly higher base damage than level 2 ammo. But, let's say theoretically 2 guns had the exact same attack stat. The gun that could fire rapid normal 2 ammo would always do more damage than the other if the other could only fire regular normal 2 ammo. This is also partially because of the fantastic skill, Rapid Fire Up, which at level 3 increases the damage of rapid fire ammo by 20%. Rapid fire is going to be the crux of a lot of light bowgun builds, and so I'll talk more about rapid fire in each individual ammo build section. Now for the switch skills, which are a new addition to Rise. Basically, you expend a resource called Wire Bugs in order to use a special move, and Wire Bugs regenerate over time. However, how quickly a Wire Bug regenerates is based on what move you use. The Wire Bug regeneration rates are listed under each switch skill in-game. I'm going to skip the first set for now and instead talk about the second set, which is Fanning Vault versus Fanning Maneuver. Fanning Vault lets you jump in the air and attempt to jump over a monster. If you have a charge of Wyvern Blast, you can fire it off mid-air onto a monster's head to hopefully get some extra air. You can then shoot at the mine, which has been placed on the monster's head, again hopefully, to detonate it. Fanning Maneuver, on the other hand, lets you slide 90 degrees around a single point and gives you a damage buff for 20 seconds. It seems to be a 10 to 15% damage buff based on whatever rounding is going on behind the scenes for an individual ammo type, but either one is still a big damage buff. The Wire Bug recharge rate is lower than the duration of the buff, so if you're diligent in your gameplay, you should just permanently be playing with a 10% damage buff. Normally, I think this would speak for itself. But I have noticed some bad advice out there on some of those prominent article farm websites about vaulting, suggesting you take vaulting over Fanning Maneuver. Honestly, this is insane. I think that even if you completely got rid of the 10% damage buff from Fanning Maneuver, it would still be better. First, let's get this out of the way though. Jumping over a monster and dropping a mine on its head is funny. It's funny and it's fun to do, but it's not good. First of all, I think just conceptually there's a problem with trying to jump over a monster. Basically every single monster in the game is way taller than you, right? This move is only useful if you're actually successful in making it all the way over. It's more consistent and reliable if you get the extra air boost from dropping a mine, but remember, they take a full minute to recharge. Once your stock of those is empty, you are rolling the dice of whether or not you're able to make it up and over a monster. And that's assuming the monster isn't doing anything like jumping or flying like almost every single monster in the game does. There is no attack in this game that a vault gets you out of the way of that a Fanning Maneuver doesn't. The exception to this would maybe be a laser beam, but then you can just Fanning Maneuver backwards out of it, or it's one of the ones that is in a special arena where they put up things you can dive behind anyways. So you just Fanning Maneuver behind one of those. And that brings me to the second point, which is that Fanning Maneuver is a great repositioning tool. If you're using a bowgun, you're almost always aiming for one specific spot, which is going to be the head or the tail. Maybe the wings if you're fighting Diablos or something. If a monster gets knocked down while facing away from you or at a weird angle where their head isn't readily visible, being able to quickly reposition to a spot where you can get back to shooting them in the head is super valuable. Vaulting isn't going to get you there. It's basically just straight vertical unless you're willing to expend a mine on nothing except moving forward. Plus, let's assume that you do successfully vault over an enemy, drop a mine on their head, and blow it up. The monster's now stunned, but you're behind it. You either have to use another wire bug and mine to get back over it so you can start shooting again, or walk all the way around. And now, think about all the things I just said, except Fanning Maneuver also gives you a 10% damage buff. If for some reason you don't believe me, one thing you can do to really drive this point home is to just go to the top of the screen in the search bar and type in Monster Hunter Rise Light Bowgun Speedrun and just click on literally any video. Go watch any of the videos by the people whose entire YouTube communities are based around using the bowgun in Monster Hunter. Nobody is using Vault. I could not believe the levels of bad advice I was seeing on some of these article farms. One last piece of practical info about Fanning Maneuver though. As soon as the buff deactivates, any bullets that you might have fired from your gun but haven't connected with the monster yet will lose the damage bonus. This is most relevant for things like sticky ammo or slicing ammo where you shoot the bullet and it connects with the monster and then there's a delayed detonation. Even if you fired them while the buff was still active, as soon as you stop glowing blue, the damage will disappear. Now, reload versus elemental reload. Reload does nothing, and it took me a while to figure out exactly what elemental reload did. It says that it increases your elemental damage and also reload speed, but in all my testing, it was only increasing damage and not reload speed. After checking a few other videos, I think I figured out what's going on. I think at one point in the game, elemental reload increased your reload speed by 1 rank. So if you were at fastest reload speed, it would drag you down to fast. This definitely wouldn't have been worth it considering it's only like a 3% damage buff, especially considering that at some point I think it was impossible to offset this with the reload speed skill. That's been changed however, and now that even if you do elemental reload you can still get fastest. So basically there's no reason not to use this if you're using elemental ammo. Now, is it worth taking if it causes you to lose out on another slot, like for example if you were to instead have a blaze jewel? And the math on that is yes, it's worth it. A single blaze jewel will only increase your elemental damage by 1 per shot, as opposed to elemental reload which gives you +2 per shot. The only exception here is if you have 4 blaze jewels equipped already, the 5th one would give you +2, so then it's a wash. My build for the Rattling Phoenix I use, for example, I'm able to get 5 blaze jewels plus my reload speed down to fastest, even with elemental reload. So, just to reiterate, elemental reload increases your reload speed by 1 rank, but also increases your elemental damage. You can offset this using a reload speed jewel. Use this skill so long as you're able to still hit fastest reload speed. Alright, forward dodge versus quick step evade is definitely the most subjective choice on the list. Forward dodge is just the default dodge. Quick step evade is a shorter, quicker dodge that gives you a damage bonus to any shot fired immediately after doing it. This isn't something you can charge or hold on to. It's not like, use this dodge and then your next attack is boosted so wait for the perfect opportunity. It's, you do a dodge and then if you don't fire immediately after dodging, it's gone. It's a 10% damage bonus and it stacks with Fanning Maneuver. This is the second place I've seen a lot of bad article advice on this. I don't think this is a good skill. Firstly, even though it's called quote-unquote quick step, it's not that quick. Doing a step and then shoot, step and then shoot, step and then shoot thing is not doable because 1, this costs stamina, and 2, it's actually significantly lower DPS than if you were to just keep shooting. You're getting a 10% damage bonus for 1 shot in the time it takes where you could have just done another shot. This is not something you do to maximize your DPS. This is a nice little bonus you get every time you dodge. I've seen articles saying like, this is the clear choice for those who are DPS minded, and that's just not true. Now for the really subjective part. I think even if the DPS bonus on this skill was like 30%, I would be hard pressed to use it. Maybe this is just me, or just the way that I play the game, but this game is constantly full of close calls. One of my favorite decorations to run has a Evade extender on it, and that's on the normal dodge. Cutting my dodge distance by 2/3 sounds like a nightmare. Now, let's say theoretically you are running a build where you never had to dodge, like if you're doing sticky chain stuns. Even then, Quick Step Evade isn't worth taking because, like I said, it's a lower DPS boost than if you were to just shoot the gun anyways. Dodging purely exists as an "oh god please I hope I don't die" situation, and so I would want the skill that makes me not die the best. Watching over the footage I recorded of this video and seeing all the dodges that I barely get out of, I can't help but notice every single time where I'm like, yep, if there were quick steps I would have died there. So yeah, I'm all in on forward dodge. I'm definitely biased. Okay, last on the list is bowgun customization. Every light bowgun has the choice between two add-ons, the long barrel or the silencer. The silencer lowers monster aggro towards you, reduces your critical distance, and also reduces recoil on your shots. So the lower aggro component would seem to be multiplayer focused. I'll be honest, even though I use light bowguns a ton, it doesn't really feel like it does anything in regards to making monsters attack my palicos or palamutes more. I use the silencer when I do magnum aloe slicing runs, for example, and this guy is always on me. There's no numbers the game gives you, so all I have to go is based on feel. It doesn't feel like it does anything in single player. But also, it doesn't really matter because the real highlight here is lower recoil. More on that in just a second. Now, it's important to note that the long barrel doesn't actually increase your recoil, it just sets it to the default amount as if you had no customization. The trade-off is more damage. I want to say the math is 4.5% damage rounded. A gun with 180 goes to 188, 190 goes to 199, 200 goes to 209. 4.5 rounded to the closest whole number works in all those examples, so that's the number I'm going with. It also increases critical distance, which makes it functionally similar to the skill Ballistics, which I'll talk more about in its own section. There's a really easy way to figure out which one of these you should pick. Open up your ammo chart and go to the recoil for your specific ammo type. If it's low, go long barrel. If it's not low, use silencer. Let's use the magnum aloe light bowgun for example. Using 3 recoil down gems, I can only get the recoil of slicing ammo to average. If you want low on that shot, you have to do silencer. On the flip side, if you have 3 recoil down jewels on the Despot's Wildfire, the recoil goes to low, so long barrel. It's pretty easy to understand why this is the case if you just do a simple DPS check. Testing the same gun with long barrel and silencer, the low recoil rate beats out average recoil with the 4.5% damage buff every time. The difference is clearly visible, but I kind of want to show off the actual numbers because they're pretty insane. After 60 seconds of firing with my turbo controller, with the long barrel I got 7,580 damage, and then with the silencer I got over 10,000. Massive difference. If you can't get low recoil on a gun, pick a different gun. The game does pull a weird little prank though that you need to be aware of. If you press the Y button on the customization screen, you can see the ammo info. Looking at the gun, you can see that the recoil for sticky 3s is high. Pop on the silencer, check the ammo, recoil on sticky 3 still high. Slicing ammo as well. Equip the long barrel instead though, go to the menu, and nothing changes. But if I exit this menu, you can clearly see in my skills that I have recoil down 3 equipped. If I go into the ammo screen on my status menu, you can see that the values here are completely different. For whatever reason, the bowgun customization menu only displays the weapon's base recoil level and doesn't actually account for either recoil down skill or any of the recoil changes caused by customization. Even though you would think it would considering the values are green, which in every other menu meant that it's taking skills into account. I don't know if it's a bug or whatever, but for some reason, this screen will never update. You have to drop out of this menu and try a different one so you can see the ammo chart that actually updates. So now finally, with the silencer and recoil down 3, you can see us hitting low recoil for both sticky 3 and slicing. Okay, heavy bowgun. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do not like heavy bowgun as much as light bowgun. Light bowguns have a lot going for them. You can move fast, you got good movement options, you got a damage buff, and you got rapid fire. Heavy bowguns, first of all, are slow. Your walking speed is like greatsword slow. As slow as it gets, the slowest weapon. Your trade-off then is a damage bonus, which is shown through each gun's raw attack stat. There's no hidden heavy bowgun multiplier compared to light bowguns. The difference between the two's damage is just the raw values. Instead of rapid fire, heavy bowguns are able to charge their shots. On one hand, yes, charging your shots does increase your damage per shot, which is handy for those ammo types where you don't have a ton of them. And don't get me wrong, a level 3 charge is a pretty sizable damage boost. But for most ammo types, this is a non-existent issue. If light bowguns can get through hunts without needing to go back to base, heavy bowguns should too. The problem here is how slow the charge is, and oh my god is it slow. It's so slow. Remember how when I was talking about Quick Step Evade, and it's a 10% damage boost, but it's not worth it when you could just be shooting anyways? This is like that, but even worse. It is a comical DPS fall off. You should not be charging your shots for DPS purposes, you should just be letting it rip. There are some situations where charging your shot is nice, like if a monster is turned around and you don't have a clean shot, you can just hold your shot so that way when it finally does aim towards you, you can blast them. But it's definitely nowhere near as useful as rapid fire. Okay, back to the positives, I promise. In addition to generally having more damage, heavy bowguns also tend to have higher clip sizes, which means higher DPS and more chances for spare shot to proc. They also tend to have less recoil and faster reload speed, which would normally be very good, except that recoil and reload down are small sized jewels anyways, so like, what else are you putting in those level 1 deco slots, right? If you're using an elemental bowgun, that's nice, because now you can fit in all 5 of your elemental slots, but if you're not, like, you know, what else goes there? Free meal? I shouldn't talk bad about free meal. Wide range free meal was a fun build to do in World. I miss you, Wiggler Hat. The one really nice thing is that heavy bowgun gets access to wyvern ammo, which can be fully charged to deal really solid damage, and it's a really good option for when an enemy's trapped, paralyzed, slept, or knocked out with sticky ammo. Instead of Wyvern Blast, heavy bowguns get access to one of 2 special ammo attacks, Wyvern Heart and Wyvern Snipe. Each gun gets access to only one of the 2, except the Rampage bowgun where you can choose. Wyvern Heart is like a Gatling gun that can inflict flinches, and Wyvern Snipe shoots out something vaguely resembling Pierce ammo that then explodes. Again, to be honest here, these 2 attacks are significantly less useful than Light Bowgun's Wyvern Blast. First of all, these attacks act like special ammo magazines that you have to load into your gun really slowly, and Wyvern Snipe makes you lie down in the field to fire it, and then you have to shoot it, get back up, and eject the ammo before you can start shooting again, during which time a monster you have to pray is not going to murder you. Wyvern Heart is like a meter you deplete, and you can cancel it at any time, but in doing so you have to play the animation of you ejecting the clip. It normally takes 4 minutes and 5 seconds for Wyvern Heart to totally recharge from empty, but let's say you only use half of your meter. It'll then only take half the time to recharge, so 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Wyvern Snipe, on the other hand, is just a shot you fire, and it takes 1 minute and 25 seconds to charge another one. For Wyvern Snipe, I really don't think it's worth interrupting your normal gaming to use. Wyvern Heart can be fine, but it's still going to be suboptimal DPS and utility compared to what you're just normally doing probably. Especially considering how vulnerable you are while firing. You're basically just out in the open praying a monster doesn't decide to attack you while you unleash 20 seconds worth of ammo. It's best thought of in the same vein as Wyvern ammo, where it's only to be used when a monster is already stunned. Because of the really long recharge time, it's basically a once per fight thing, so if you feel like putting down a shock trap and just unloading into a monster's face, you can get a solid amount of damage out of it. You can also increase the damage of both with Special Ammo Boost, which is a 2-point skill that at max level will increase your damage by 20%. The skill Focus can also be used to reduce the cooldown time, but not by enough to matter. Max level Focus takes Wyvern Heart down from 405 to 324, which is still a long time. Wyvern Snipe it brings down from a minute 25 to a minute 12, which is comically ineffective, but also wouldn't be worth it anyways because I think Wyvern Snipe is just not usable. I think the reason both of these are so bad is because they were really good in Monster Hunter World and they wanted to nerf them down. In World, if you had Focus, the cooldown of Wyvern Snipe was only 45 seconds, and so I made a build that I would take in multiplayer where monsters wouldn't target me, and I would just let them rip all the time with Special Ammo Boost, and it was pretty fun. But they've just been nerfed too heavily in Rise. Here you can see me, I tried to do the exact same build I just mentioned against a Ludroth, which is like a baby monster, and you can see that the damage just isn't there. So before we get into the switch skills, I want to talk about customization options. The first option is the Power Barrel, which is just increased damage, no strings attached. I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of an 11% to 12% damage buff, but there's some sort of rounding going on in the background, so I can't figure out the exact number. Second option is the Shield, and I like the Shield. Just like the Lance or Gun Lance shield, it will auto-block any attack so long as you're holding down the aim button. You can't be firing or reloading though, otherwise the auto-guard won't work. This is a big part of what makes Wyvern Heart so dangerous. You can't be totally carefree with it, but it's a great defensive tool. Just for reference, if you have a shield, this is what it looks like to face tank a Diablo's charge. This is a big part of the build variance of heavy bowguns, because now there's a balance you can strike between offense and defense. Just a regular shield is going to keep you alive during a big portion of the hunts in the game, but getting into the Elders and Apex monsters, the chip damage is really going to start adding up. I have a Talisman with Guard 3 on it, and it really shores up the defense and makes it so that you can pretty much totally be Worry 3 throughout a fight. Shields are much more effective on certain builds like spread ammo, where you have to constantly be up in the enemy's face, but is maybe less useful for something like pierce ammo, where you want to be sort of far away to a point where maybe a shield is unnecessary. Another example would be if you were using sticky 3s and just wanted to chain stun an enemy, using the power barrel for more damage and therefore more stun would be more effective. So the heavy bowgun switch skills are pretty underwhelming. The first choice you have is melee attack versus tackle. For the melee attack, it deals stun damage, but also so does sticky ammo, which is like the heavy bowgun specialty. There's an incredibly small, close to zero number of instances where you would want to do a melee attack over just shooting the monster with a sticky ammo. It says that if you have a shield, you'll be protected during it, but there's gotta be some sort of like window to this, because I've definitely been knocked out of melee attacks with a shield is wearing. A tackle is sort of like a dodgeball, except you'll still take damage if you get hit while doing it, but it'll be significantly reduced. The number of frames for this are really high, so it's really useful for blocking through roars. You'll take more damage than if you were to just use a shield to block the attack, but if you don't have a shield, this can be a nice last resort to try and mitigate an attack you know that you're not going to be able to dodge out of the way of. Tackle is situational, definitely, but I can't think of a situation where I would want to use a melee attack. So for that reason, tackle is better. Next up is counter shot versus counter charger. Both moves will give you invulnerability to an attack if you get hit in the activation window, but only one attack, so if you manage to counter one hit, you can still get followed up on. You really have to know a monster's moves when you're using this skill. You don't want to use it on the first hit of a 2-hit attack. If you manage to successfully block an attack with this move, counter charger will reduce the amount of time it takes to charge your shots. On one hand, it's definitely faster, it's way faster. But on the other hand, if we take the use cases for charged shots into account, it's not really helping you do what charged shots are most useful for, which is just waiting for an opportunity. It's still not a fast enough charge that it's going to be viable to charge every single shot and expect it to be a DPS boost instead of just constantly firing. The other option, counter shot, allows you to take a single long-range high-damage shot after a counter. This attack deals impact damage and therefore can inflict stun if you hit a monster in the head, or during certain animations if you hit a monster in the legs. The shot has a really big recoil to it. Think like wyvern ammo charging. This can be really dangerous because in that time you're just stuck there. But once you take the shot, you do a backflip, and so if you can't hit a monster in the head, you can use it to shoot yourself sideways out of the way of an attack. This is definitely not a move you should be relying on. Again, you only want to use this move if you know a monster isn't going to follow up. Even though counter shot is going to lock you in place way longer than counter charger, which makes it way more dangerous, the wire bug cooldown on counter shot is low, meanwhile the counter charger is medium, meaning if you run counter shot, you can do wire bug counters more often. The last choice is between your traditional special ammo, which is Wyvern Heart and Wyvern Snipe, and a version of it that heals allies. I'm gonna be real, this one's stupid. Like, the use case for healing an ally is pretty much only if a monster is currently chasing your ally and their health is low and their weapon is out so they can't heal themselves. If that's the case, in the time it takes you to load up your special ammo, lay down, aim, line up the shot, that ally is either already dead or has already used a potion or is out of your very limited range. This isn't even worth doing if you're trying to go online and be like the support class. Just do the build I mentioned earlier with the Wiggler head, where you equip wide range and free meal and start chugging potions. This switch skill sucks. I'm genuinely disappointed that of the 3 switch skills we get, one of them is completely worthless. So, before we get into specific builds, I want to talk about the skill Ballistics and how it relates to gameplay, because one of the key mechanics of actually playing the bowgun is staying within what's known as critical distance. Basically, when you aim at an enemy, you're going to get a response from your reticle. If your reticle glows orange, that means you are in critical distance and your shots will do the damage that they are supposed to be doing. If the reticle is just yellow, your shots will basically do nothing. You are outside of critical distance. The exception to this rule is sticky and slicing ammo, the ones that attach themselves to enemies before detonating. They can be fired from outside of critical distance and will still do full damage. A white reticle means that your bullet is not going to hit anything. Now, bullets will disappear after a certain distance. They won't just fly forever. So if you see the not in range sign, that means your bullets are going to disappear before they reach the target. This is different from the white reticle because the game does recognize that you're aiming at a monster. It's just too far away. The skill Ballistics can be used to increase the critical distance range for all ammo types, but this is most useful for spread ammo. Every other ammo type, you should really have no trouble staying within the critical distance because it's so wide. Spread ammo's field is so low though that even basic monster movements will very often put it outside your range, so a pointed tool in Ballistics can really boost your damage by reducing the amount of time you need to spend rolling around trying to get within range, especially for guns where you can't move and shoot at the same time. The other kind of weird usage case for Ballistics is pierce ammo. Now, this is kind of weird and kind of situational, so I'll try to explain it as best I can. The reticle will show you when you're within critical distance, but only the part of the enemy that you're actually aiming at. So let's look at the training dummy. I'm right on the edge of critical range, but I'm still in range. I take a shot, I do full damage. Piercing ammo, you can see though, the first few hits are 11s and 13s, which means I'm hitting and critting, but then, after the second, all the damage drops to 1. What's the deal with pierce ammo? Well, remember, the bullet is traveling through the enemy. So the front of the head is in critical range, but the inside of the monster, as it's traveling, the bullet is leaving critical distance. The monster's face, critical distance. The back of his head, not critical distance. Now, the obvious solution for this particular case is to just walk 1 foot forward. But let's assume this were a Diablos. In order to make sure that my bullet is doing full damage the whole time it's traveling through him, I would need to walk a Diablos length distance closer to the monster. And that's kind of a fair amount of distance, and that's why Ballistics is sort of useful against monsters where you really don't want to get that close, or maybe sometimes where you can't get that close. For example, when Narwa's flying around in the air, you can't get much closer. Or just against monsters like Apex Diablos where you want to be as far away as possible when you're using a bowgun. There's one more set of skills I want to mention, and it's because these skills are going to be featured prominently across a lot of different builds, and that's Capacity Up and Spare Shot. Capacity Up increases the number of shots you can fire before you need to reload by 1. Capacity 2 and Capacity 3 just make the skill apply to more ammo types. You only ever get +1 ammo. So, at Capacity Up 3, every ammo type except Wyvern ammo will get +1 ammo per clip. Spare Shot at level 3 has a 20% chance of not expending ammo when you fire, meaning you use less ammo from your stash, but more importantly, you reload less. Now, it's very difficult to quantify how much DPS increase this is on a broad scale because of so many different factors. Whether or not these skills are worth it are going to depend on 2 things, your original ammo capacity and your reload speed. Let's take the Venom Hail for example. By default, it has 8 shots of spread 3 at low reload. You're reloading so infrequently and so quickly that Capacity Up isn't worth it. Now, let's look at the Magnum Aloe Light Bowgun, which can only fire 1 sticky 3 shot at medium reload speed. Adding just 1 additional bullet per clip is a 60% damage bonus. You're not getting that efficiency from any other skill. Anything in between those two, well, you just sort of gotta test it for yourself. But the general rule to follow is that as your base ammo capacity increases, Capacity Up falls off exponentially. Lower reload speed also makes Capacity Up less effective. Now, Spare Shot. 20% chance to not use up ammo, which means it doesn't disappear from your clip either. The math on this is even more unknowable, and it's hard to track a consistent number down. But what I do know is this. I've used this skill for a long time and across many different builds, and there's one thing that I do know. This skill activates all the time. If you told me that the 20% number was wrong, or that the game was bugged, and that the actual activation chance was 40 or even 50%, I would totally believe you. This thing will activate 6 times in a row, constantly. During a hunt, Spare Shot notifications are going to be completely littering your screen to the point where you're going to miss your palicos telling you that a monster is in capture range. This is a value skill. Now, that being said, it does operate by the same rules as capacity up. Not needing to reload isn't as big a deal if your reloads are super short and your capacity is really high to begin with. But if you're using something like Elemental Pierce Light Bowgun or Sticky 3 Light Bowgun, Spare Shot is going to be completely invaluable. One last thing. I know not everyone is going to have the same talismans as me, and that's totally fine. Honestly, I don't have any completely insane talismans with good skills and good slots on them. All of the talismans I use across all my builds are only going to have 2 skill points in a skill that would otherwise take a level 2 deco slot. Spare Shot 2, Wex 2, Attack Boost 2, Slugger 2, etc. So, as long as you have one talisman with 2 level 2 deco slots, you'll be able to make any of these builds. Alright, finally, we are on to the builds. Let's start off with the least effective build in the entire game, Normal Shots. Now, like I said, normal shots are bad because most endgame monsters have a big resistance to shot type damage. But, I'm not your dad, I can't tell you what to do. If you want to go a normal build, you can. One of the nice things here is that you've got some actual decisions to make. Now, the obvious choice seems like it would be Rapid Fire Normal 2 ammo. You can stack the skills Rapid Fire Up and Normal Up for 2 separate 20% damage bonuses. Before we settle on a final loadout though, let's look at our weapon choices. There's a fair number of Rapid Normal 2 guns, and I'm putting this Zenogre gun off to the side. The raw and ammo capacity is strictly outclassed by other weapons on the list, so it's out. There's some math involved, but basically, Brutal Strike isn't worth it. The simple explanation is that critting and skills like Crit Boost are just too strong. I'm going to take the Anjanath gun, and I'm going to compare it to the other gun that would be looking to take the top spot, the Kushala Deora. The Rampage skill on this gun gives you an affinity boost when you hit multiple shots in a row, capping out at 30% affinity after 3 consecutive hits. You can keep attacking to keep the buff going, but missing one shot or not hitting any shots for 3 seconds will reset your bonus. This, combined with the gun's base 10% affinity and weakness exploit 3, puts you at a 90% crit rate. All you have to do now is put crit boost on the gun and you're good to go. On the flip side, the Anjanath gun has Brutal Strike, which is a 20% chance to make your negative crit deal double damage. For this skill to activate, you need to actually be doing negative crits, so we can't add any crit boosting skills on our build. Instead, we have to focus on making our raw damage as high as possible. The build I'm using here is Attack Up 5, Peak Performance 3, and Agitator 4. Even without Agitator active, this brings our raw number up to 285, which is really high all things considered. In a DPS test though, this gun falls considerably behind. Now granted, like I said, Agitator is not active and that would make our attack even higher. But I also tried to compensate for this by gimping the Kushala gun and making it only fire 3 shots in a row before reloading, just like the Anjanath gun. The final damage difference is so high, I don't think Agitator would actually let it catch up to the Kushala gun, even keeping it gimped at 3 shots. So, that settles it, right? Kushala Rapid Fire is the DPS king of normal light bowguns. Well, no, because even with Rapid Fire Up, normal 2s don't outdamage normal 3s. For this test, I used the exact same build, except I swapped Rapid Fire Up for other raw boosting skills, and normal 3 pulls ahead. So, unfortunately, this is sometimes the result of doing math. You optimize a build, and you follow all the rules, only for things to not end up the way you expect. The one upside to this though is that actually, the Kushala Light Bowgun is not only the best Rapid Fire 2 normal bowgun, but is also the best normal 3 light bowgun, so it wasn't a total waste to make it. As for the Anjanath gun, both Brutal Strike and the low clip size prevent it from being a top tier option, but we'll come back to this gun in a little bit. Although, yes, I did make this gun just for the purpose of showing off that it wasn't good. For normal heavy bowguns, you've got a couple different options. Kushala is, again, another great choice for exactly the same reason as the light bowgun. The Chameleos gun doesn't have any extra affinity, so with just Wex, you're at a 50% crit rate. It's got the same raw as the Kushala gun too, plus it's got 3 extra ammo capacity. The Rampage skill, Chameleos Soul, will randomly increase your health, attack, or defense while you're shooting. And it's also got a level 2 deco slot. Now, if you're feeling stingy, the Kushala gun is also the best piercing heavy bowgun if you're just trying to save on resources and make as few guns as possible just to try them out. But I think the Chameleos gun is the strict DPS option. Now, because we're not using rapid fire, we can actually use the same build for both light and heavy bowgun variants. Attack Boost 4 is the value number because in addition to the raw attack, you also get plus 5% damage. If you can't make it up past Attack Boost 3, it's probably more effective to try out a different damage boosting skill. You want Wex 3 and Crit Boost 3 for the reasons I just explained, and Normal Up 3. Skills that give you percentage bonuses are often just flat out better than raw attack bonuses. If your weapon has 200 base raw, which is pretty on average for a light bowgun even, it would take a plus 20 raw attack skill to equate 10% damage boost. So having a skill that gives you a 20% damage bonus is insane. Latent Power and Fortify are just incidental skills on the armor. Now, there is one other set I want to mention, and it's the Valstrax set. The Valstrax set is essentially the endgame armor set. Dragonheart gives plus 50 elemental defense and plus 10 attack damage when you're under 80% health. It will also inflict Dragon Blight on you, which will reduce the elemental damage you deal to 0. This obviously makes any elemental ammo worthless, but it will also activate the armor skill's other ability, Resuscitate, which boosts your attack by 20 when you're inflicted with a status ailment. It also has Resentment 3, which increases your damage by 15 when you get hit and have the red portion of your HP gauge remaining. Getting this skill up to plus 5 through decos brings the number up to 25. Lastly, it comes with Wex 3 built in, 2 level 3 deco slots, 3 level 2 deco slots, which is just enough for spare shot max out, and 3 level 1 deco slots. This is basically the most raw damage you can squeeze out of any set, assuming all of your skills are activated. Getting hit once to put yourself below 80% is easy, but maintaining recoverable health is very annoying. Unless, of course, you're using a shield and you're constantly taking small amounts of chip damage. You aren't taking much damage, but you're taking it consistently enough to maintain the damage buff. I use the Valstrax set with all of the heavy bowguns where I plan on using a shield. In the 3 deco slots, I use Guard 3. For the level 3 slots, I use either Capacity Up or Spread Normal Pierce Up. Then, for my Talisman, I just use whatever fits the build. If I plan on using stickies, I can use Spare Shot, and if not, I might use 2 more Resuscitate decos. This is going to be my go-to shield build for every ammo type, and admittedly, I use a shield with just about every heavy bowgun. Apex monsters and the Elders require you to either chain stun them to death, or you need to play the fight absolutely perfectly. Shields mean you get a lot more leeway, and even then the fight still isn't totally free. So, for heavy bowgun, slap your normal up gems onto the Valstrax set. If you don't feel like using shield, just use the same build as the light bowgun. So, Pierce bowguns are unfortunately completely under lock and key. The Nargacuga light bowgun can rapid fire Pierce 2 shots, and can also shoot Pierce 3 ammo if you feel like it. It's got Paralysis ammo 2, the best status ammo, Exhaust 2, and Slicing ammo. The Rampage skill brings your raw attack up to 196, which is respectable. It's got a level 2 deco slot on it, and of course, it's got a 40% base affinity. With the Renopolis helm giving us Pierce Up 2 and the rest of the slots filled with the 3-2-1 slot armor, we can easily max out Pierce Up, Rapid Fire Up, and still have all of our level 2 slots. With just 1 level 2 deco slot on our Talisman, we can also hit Wex 3 and Crit Boost 3. It's good for the same reason here that it is on normals. It's a 90% chance to deal 40% more damage on all your attacks. So it's functionally a 38% damage bonus. And that's on top of the 2 separate 20% bonus damage skills we already have. If you've only got 1 deco slot left over, considering something functional like Evade Extender or Ballistics, like I said, if you can't get Attack Boost 4, consider something like Peak Performance. At level 3, Peak Performance increases your damage by 20, but you need to be at full health for it to work. With Pierce ammo though, that's totally manageable. You want to be far away from the enemy anyways. You can also craft a lot of Pierce ammo too mid-fight, meaning that something like Spare Shot isn't necessarily super valuable here. Piercing heavy bowguns feel really rough against Apex monsters or the enemies like Tigrex who love to stay on top of you, but can manage to perform really well against monsters who like to stay at the mid-ranged and use range attacks against you like Almudron or Kershala. There's a few different heavy bowguns that we can use here. The Nargacuga's heavy bowgun clip is barely bigger than the light bowgun. The raw damage is also barely higher and the affinity is actually lower. The Magnum Aloe has 1 less shot per clip, but also 20 more raw damage, which is a good trade, especially considering the Magna Heavy Bowgun can also do a bunch of other builds really well. The Magnum Aloe Heavy Bowgun can basically do any build in the game with like a reasonable level of competence. If you're looking for the optimal gun though, it's probably the Kushala Deora Heavy Bowgun. The bonus affinity from the ramp up skill is just too good to pass up if the ammo is there, especially considering the Valstrax set comes with Wex 3 built into it. For the heavy bowgun build, all you have to do is swap out your normal ups from the previous Valstrax build and swap in Pierce Up. I would definitely recommend the light bowgun build over the heavy bowgun build though. Not even just as a matter of player preference, the light bowgun build is actually going to end up doing a lot more damage. Spread ammo. Once again, it is time to do some math. You know the drill. Rapid Spread 2 versus Spread 3. I put together 2 builds, one with maxed Rapid Up and Spread Up, and then a second build with Wex and Crit Boost. For this test though, we've got some real limiting external factors. The Gauss-Arag gun is single fire, so it's unusable. The Ibushi gun can't move while firing, which really sucks considering how long the animation for rapid spread takes. The Jitaros gun can, but even with reload speed 3, you can't hit the fastest reload animation. But, despite that, it's still the best choice. The only consolation is that instead of a third point in reload speed down, which is worthless, we can instead use recoil down 3, and then use the long barrel, just in a desperate attempt to squeeze out some extra damage. Anyways, I'm comparing this with the Magnum Aloe light bowgun running spread 3s. Both guns have basically all utility skills like ballistics removed, and just have maxed out damage values for a raw DPS test. And, unfortunately, Spread 3 overtakes Rapid Spread 2 by a significant margin. Now, the Ibushi gun might technically end up having higher DPS than the Comet because of the lower reload time, but it's not going to be a 30% DPS damage bonus that it would need to catch up with the Magnum Aloe. Plus, it's locked in place while shooting, and at that point you might as well just use the heavy bowgun variant if you're going to play it like that. Even if you did the Ibushi build, it'd just be the same build as the test anyways. For the actual build, you probably want to slot in a point or two of ballistics. This build should look familiar. Attack boost 4, crit boost, Wex, spread up. Now, because spread ammo is so dangerous, this playstyle really benefits from the shield of the heavy bowgun. Once again, I know it's lame, but I'm using Valstrax. Always being in the monster's face because of the distance of spread ammo means that you're always going to be taking chip damage, which means Resentment and Dragonheart are always going to be active. Same build as Pierce and Normals, just swap in spread up too. Now for the guns. Venom Hail in the Ore Tree has access to Spread Effect 2 Rampage skill, which brings your total clip size up to 8, which is very high. Magnum Aloe Heavy Bowgun will also work, but in this case is actually a noticeable downgrade from Venom Hail. There's one quick point I want to make though. Do you remember when I said it was impossible to know the math on exactly how much capacity is worth exactly how much raw? Well, looking at the Tigrex Heavy Bowgun, I noticed that it has 3 less ammo capacity, but nearly 40 more raw base damage. So, I bought the gun and I started doing testing. At first, I was super excited because the Tigrex gun was coming up ahead. I was like, man, I've invented the new strongest build. Nobody knows this but me, I can't wait to take credit for it. I did a 1-minute damage test and I did a 3-minute damage test, just to make sure that the reloading wouldn't add up over time and that the Tigrex gun wasn't just better in the short term. But no, the Tigrex gun out-damaged the Venom Hail. But then I did the test again. This time, the Venom Hail did better. Doing the test a third time, the Venom Hail was better at the 1-minute mark, but then the Tigrex gun was up at 3 minutes. So it turns out, the guns are functionally the same. The deciding factor ended up being whether or not each gun was getting lucky or unlucky on crits. So if you go online, you're going to see people say that the Venom Hail is the best gun, and technically they're right. But the Tigrex gun is a great example that ammo capacity isn't everything, and that raw damage can be an important factor. In the end, I'd recommend using either gun. Here's an example of a raw damage build, and then of course you've got Valstrax. Elemental ammo is, again, another fun ammo type because there's a lot of skills to work with. Now, that might sound scary on one hand. There's 5 different elemental ammo types, plus piercing elemental ammo, so that's a lot of different guns and armor you're going to need for all those sets. Especially considering Valstrax is out, because Dragonblight reduces the amount of elemental damage we do to 0. So I'm going to try to put your mind at ease about how complicated this all is. First of all, cross dragon ammo off the list and pretend it's not real. You can only bring 3 dragon ammo with you on a hunt, and only 10 Dragonfell berries, which craft into dragon ammo, so you're hard capped at 13 shots before you need to completely go back to base and restock. Now, remember how I said that normal ammo suffered because late game enemy resistances against shot type damage was so high? Well, if we go back into the Hunter's Notebook, we can try to look for some patterns among the endgame hunts. Flipping through the Apex and Elders, you're going to see a lot of fire resistances. On the other hand, there's a fair number of ice weaknesses, so that might be a better investment. Now, a lot of monsters that are resistant to ice are also resistant to water, so that would be an inefficient choice too. Therefore, our second option should be a Thunder Gun to help us deal with the rest of the pack. There is no getting around the fact, though, that your damage is going to be really low against a monster who has a decent amount of resistance to your element. So even more than normal ammo, you really need to tailor your weapon based on who you're up against. This isn't Pierce 2 where you're just going to be able to power through it. That being said, if a monster is weak, it's going to be really weak. Lastly, if you really just don't want to micromanage a bunch of different armor sets, which, I get it. It's pretty easy to just make one general use armor set, and then all you have to do is swap in elemental decos when you use a different weapon. So this is probably the most into the weeds about game mechanics that I'm gonna get, But to explain why elemental ammo is better on light bowgun than heavy bowgun, I want to talk very briefly about motion values. So this is probably something you understand intuitively but just haven't really actively thought about, but every single individual attack in this game has a multiplier attached to it. That's the reason why a charged Great Slash from the Great Sword deals more damage than, let's say, a dual blade attack. The charged slash multiplies your damage by more than an individual dual blade attack does. Now, the multiplier on elemental damage of all types across all weapons is very, very low. So low that it's better to think of it more as addition than multiplication. Imagine that, and this isn't exactly true, imagine that the fire element will add plus 10 fire damage to every single one of your attacks. For the Greatsword, this is basically worthless, right? When you hit for like 700 damage, plus 10 isn't helpful. But if you were playing dual blades where every attack you do does like 20 to 30 damage, plus 10 is a huge bonus. This is why big and slow weapons like Greatsword and Hammer don't traditionally ever use elemental damage at all, but faster weapons like Dual Blade and Insect Glaive do. Now, there's no inherent fire rate difference between heavy bowgun and light bowgun, so it shouldn't matter, right? And that's true, except for rapid fire ammo. If you're going with elemental ammo, you want to go with rapid fire. Now, because heavy bowguns can't rapid fire, they are instead going to start looking at piercing elemental ammo. Piercing elemental ammo hits 3 times, even on heavy bowguns, so it's still getting those nice elemental bonuses. It is technically possible for light bowguns to rapid fire elemental pierce ammo, but the devs knew that this would be an issue. Not only has the rapid fire been nerfed down to 2 shots instead of 3, but also any gun capable of rapid firing elemental pierce has some real big caveats attached to it. Now, let's talk new skills though. Firstly, you've got the elemental jewels, which increase elemental damage proportionally more at level 5. Do you remember how attack boost up 4 gives us a percentage damage bonus? Well, at level 5, the skills like fire attack up or water attack up are also going to give us a percentage bonus. There's also Teostra Blessing, which is unique to the Teostra armor, which boosts your fire damage by 10%. Kashala's Blessing increases the damage of water and ice damage by 10%. No such skill exists for thunder damage. Next, you've got Elemental Crit Up, which boosts elemental damage by 5% per level up to 15%. You can also stack this with Crit Boost, but they don't multiply off of each other. Lastly, the Rampage skill, Elemental Exploit, increases the damage you do proportional to how weak an enemy is versus the element you're using. Now, we've got access to a ton of skills here, all the ones I just mentioned, plus all the classics like Rapid Fire Up, Wex, and Peak Performance. Despite the fact that there's a ton of different ways to mix and match this gear, a lot of the combinations are going to end up in basically the same spot. Here's one build that I tried where I went with ammo up and all crit boosting gear. Here's that same build but with rapid fire up instead of crit boost and crit element. This one is all the crit skills and rapid fire up but without capacity up. Here's a build where I ignored crit boost and crit element and just went for attack up. Lastly, a peak performance crit build. As you can see, there is some variance, but for the most part all of these builds are in the same sort of effectiveness range. This is why in a lot of the previous sections I tend to be more loose about what skills you absolutely need. Like, I'm running guard 3 on every single heavy bowgun set. I'm not super worried about optimized DPS. One thing that I see all the time online is people worried that their build isn't good because they don't have like an insane talisman or something. I've even seen people go so far as to say that like certain weapons are unusable unless you have a certain talisman, or when giving build advice they'll tell you to go to the build calculator and try to plug in your skills and see how much you can squeeze out of your build. And while I demonstrated with the Venom Hail and T-Rex gun that I do kind of like to do that sort of math, but at the same time, if I really cared about doing a hunt as optimally as possible, none of this would matter anyways, because you'd just be running adrenaline. Picking out the right guns and understanding how to play your ammo type is going to get you to the finish line, and if at some point in the future you ever decide that you want to dedicate your life to gun science, that bridge will always be there when you decide to cross it later. If you've never started up a hunt only to immediately quit because you see the monster's location and it's not right near the teleport point, that's going to make a bigger amount of difference in your hunt time than the difference between attack boost 6 and attack boost 7. Even equipping a shield is strictly inferior DPS to Power Barrel. But yeah, if you're interested on turning your brain to aluminum, then I would just recommend watching Time Attack wiki speedruns of this game. I'm more interested in showing you the big math that will actually make your life way easier, like why not to use Brutal Strike or why you should never pick a gun that doesn't have recoil low. So yeah, if you're trying to make one of these builds and you're like 1 or 2 skill slots short, don't worry about it. So, with all that being said, let's talk guns. The starting location here is trying to find guns with the Rampage skill, Elemental Exploit. Good news, they're easy to find. Bad news, it's because there's only two. It is the Wrathling Phoenix and the Almudron Doombringer Bowgun. Wrathling is great. 4 clips of fire ammo, rapid fire, move while shooting, capable of hitting lowest recoil and reload speeds, and that's with elemental reload. While the Almudron gun can't rapid fire, it's got a 7 clip of water and a 5 of piercing water, and it can reload while moving, plus it's got a level 2 deco slot. The rapid fire option, the Ludroth gun, has a lot less raw, but a level 3 deco slot, which is kinda nice for rapid fire up. For ice, weirdly enough, there's no really good option for a gun that doesn't have rapid fire, but even the rapid fire guns are a little weird. Gossarog has negative 15% affinity with Brutal Strike, and the other option is just Kushala Deora, which does have the affinity boosting rampage skill, but also only a clip size of 3 and no moving reload. Last is Thunder. The Keizu gun is just a strictly worse version of all the other guns, so it's off the list. Rajang has rapid fire Thunder with a 4 clip, but negative affinity and Brutal Strike. The Narwa gun is probably the best choice. It's got rapid fire ammo and 5 clip, but also for some reason the Basil gun is a good Thunder ammo, 7 clip of non-rapid. Now, like I said, if you're looking for rapid fire pierce element, you got some issues here. The devs knew this would be busted, so they made the guns tough to use. There's only one gun that's really going to work for each element, and they've all got the exact same caveat. 2 shots per clip, no moving while shooting or moving while reloading. The guns are Rachna Kadaki for fire, Mizutsune for water, Barioth for ice, Narwa for thunder. Narwa is noteworthy as the only exception to this rule. It's got a 3 clip instead of 2, but not as noteworthy as the Rachna gun, which actually has like a lot going for it. 35% base affinity, high raw, a level 2 deco slot. It's definitely the best of the piercing elemental guns by like a solid margin. So for skill builds, I'm going to show this one first, which is just a general build where all you have to do is swap out the elemental decos. It'll look very familiar. Attack boost 4, max wex, crit boost, crit element. It's also got a ton of level 1 deco slots, so just fill out however many reload and recoil gems you need, and then fill the rest with the elemental boosters. This build is specifically for the fire element since it takes advantage of Teostra Blessing. It's the same one I showed earlier during testing. Now, this last build doesn't feature rapid fire up since the Almudron Bowgun, which does have elemental exploit, can't rapid fire. Now, you could try making a Kushala Soul build to boost the damage of ice and water skills, but the secondary skills in the armor are so much worse than Teostra, where every piece of armor has crit boosting skills. The slots are also way worse too. The nice thing here is though that we can use this exact same template for heavy bowguns. All I'm going to do is take the least effective of the damage boosting skills, which is crit element up, and swap it out for guard since, again, I'm using a shield. So, there's a few good specific heavy bowgun options, but they're basically just the heavy bowgun versions of the light bowguns I already mentioned. The Rachna Kadaki gun is insane for fire, Narwa for thunder, you get the idea. As mentioned, because of the way elemental damage works, the more hits the better, but because we can't access rapid fire ammo, piercing elemental ammo is going to be the big focus of these builds. Now, fortunately, one option we do have is the Rampage Heavy Bowgun. It's got a clip size of 4 for the piercing element of whichever element you pick. With both attack boost and attack surge, it's going to have an insanely high raw damage, but the affinity will be negative 30. Because of that, you're going to want to do Wex 2 to offset that, and then shift focus into a raw attack build using skills like attack boost, resentment, agitator, things like that. My build uses attack boost 7, agitator 5, Wex 2, and ammo up 2. Alright, now we're getting into the wacky builds. Slicing ammo is the first of the huge damage picks, and the choice is pretty easy. The Zinogre Light Bowgun is the rapid fire slicing gun of choice. It's only got 2 shots per clip, which means it's time to harken back to what I said about ammo up and spare shot. Slicing ammo in particular is important to pair up with spare shot because, for the first time, the amount of ammo you're going to be able to bring with you is going to be cutting it close to a completed hunt. You will be tearing through these. Any build variation you do here is obviously going to want rapid fire up for the 20%, and from there you can either do attack boost and peak performance, or you can go Wex crit boost. While every single heavy bowgun is going to be stuck with a slicing capacity of either 2 or 3, the Magnum Aloe heavy bowgun has a whopping 6 slots, making it the default choice. Now we can go back to the Valstrax shield set, or if you want to make something custom you can do that too. Slicing ammo has a lot of range, so you might be able to stay out of the danger zone enough to where you don't need a shield. Since we no longer need level 3 deco slots, like we did for Pierce, Spread, Normal, Rapid Up, you can instead just throw level 2 decos in those slots, and fill them with skills like Crit Boost or even try to max out Resentment. Peak Performance is wasted on the Valstrax set since it only works at full health, but Dragonheart only works at sub 80%. and it is finally time for sticky ammo. Sticky ammo is going to enable a bunch of other builds. The key here is keeping enemies permanently or semi-permanently locked down, so we're going to be looking at a few new skills. First up, you're going to want Artillery 3 non-negotiable. It is a 30% damage bonus to your stickies at level 3. Slugger increases the amount of stun you inflict by 20, 30, and 40%. I have a talisman with Slugger 2 and Evade Extender on it, and that's been really valuable for me. If you want to push it to Slugger 3 you can, but I've never felt like Slugger 2 wasn't enough. Stickies can't crit, and therefore also can't negative crit, so all we're looking here is massive raw damage and good clip size. It's worth noting though that the description of the Teostra Rampage skill says it, quote unquote, increases the damage of blast explosions, which sounds applicable here, but it means blast like the status ailment blast, which bowguns can't inflict at all, so it's completely worthless here. Light bowguns are also only capable of loading a single sticky 3 per clip, except with ammo up where you can go up to 2, and like I've mentioned before, it's going to be completely necessary. Especially considering it's sticky 3 or nothing. Sticky 1s are worthless, even rapid fired. Last piece of advice. For light bowguns, you're probably going to want also some sort of additional ammo type that you can use when the enemy actually goes down from a stun. Because you only get 2 shots per clip of sticky 3s, that's good enough for landing knockdowns, but it's not going to be very good sustained DPS. 2 shots and then a reload means that basically any other sufficiently strong ammo type is going to be way better DPS if you're unloading into the monster. And for that reason, we finally arrive at the Magnum Aloe Light Bowgun. The Magnum Aloe Light Bowgun is the one-size-fits-all solution to every monster in this game. It's got access to sticky 3 ammo for knockdowns, and then access to basically every non-elemental ammo. 7 shots of normal 3, 7 shots of pierce 3, 5 shots of spread 3, and 4 slicing. The raw damage is great, and it's got a level 2 deco slot. For the playstyle of applying stickies and then unloading into a monster for free, this is the best light bowgun. There are a couple alternatives to the playstyle, but they're going to take some real getting used to. Finally making his return, it's the Anjanath light bowgun. If we drop Brutal Strike and replace it with Cluster Effect, we get access to a decent clip of Cluster 2 ammo, which is only reliably used when a monster's knocked down. So, it's a good thing we've got access to sticky 3s. And because neither Cluster nor Stickies can negative crit, the negative affinity here doesn't matter at all, which finally frees us from the grasp of Brutal Strike. For heavy bowguns though, we got a slightly different story. Because of the greatly increased clip size for sticky 3 among heavy bowguns, you actually can make a build where sticky ammo is the only thing you invest in. It'll take some getting used to figuring out the timing of when you can start shooting stickies to make sure you're not wasting stuns while the enemy is still on the ground. You want the stickies to start actually going off once the monster is up on its feet. If you just want to deal damage to it though without inflicting a stun, there's a fun little trick you can do. If you just shoot the stickies at the ground, they'll blow up. Like I said, if you trigger a stun on a monster while it's already stunned, the stun is wasted and you have to re-inflict it all over again. But blowing up stickies this way doesn't deal stun damage. That being said, in the downtime you could also use another ammo type, such as Wyvern Fire or even Clusters, or you can use that downtime to charge your stickies. Really, you can use any ammo type while it's on the ground. For that reason, again, Magnum Aloe Heavy Bowgun is a great choice. For Clusters, you're going to want to use Teostra. If you want to do Stickies plus Wyvern Fire, I'd recommend the Tigrex gun for its massive raw damage. For just Sticky 3 Chain Stun though, the Rajang gun is your best bet. This is the perma-stun speedrun build. Great raw damage and sticky 3 clip size. Your builds are still going to rely on artillery and slugger, then just go all in on attack boost and raw damage. If you're confident you won't mess up, peak performance is viable here. This is the easiest playstyle to use without a shield, but if you want to be safe, you can always fall back on the Valstrax. So, now that I've covered pretty much any reasonable build you would ever want to use, there's just a few more things I want to talk about in terms of prepping for hunts. When you're going through your item loadout, you want to take not just the right ammo, but also whatever base materials you need to craft more ammo mid-hunt. There's no high rank monster in the game that's going to go down to just the base 60 ammo you're allowed to bring. Even more so for slicing where you only get to bring 30. Or god forbid 9 stickies. If you bring raw materials with you and craft mid-hunt, suddenly you're up to 90 slicing ammo per hunt. You want to put ammo crafting onto your radial menu as well. Like I said, you get 9 sticky 3s per hunt unless you craft more. There's no way you're making it all the way into the menu to craft in the downtime of a monster being knocked out. In this game, you can no longer craft ammo while reloading, so you don't have 100% ammo uptime like in other games, which I know is annoying, but if you're using the light bowgun, you can craft during fanning maneuver. If you get stunned by a monster's roar, you can also craft during that. For Dango skills, Bombardier and Slugger are the best choices for sticky ammo, but they won't do anything for any other ammo type. Dango Temper will boost your bowgun damage by 5%, but will increase your deviation level. You can offset this with a sniper jewel. This is especially worthwhile on spread bowguns where you don't actually have to worry about deviation. Dango Marksman is weird in that every single shot has a chance of being boosted by 10% damage, but the activation rate is only around 25%. So imagine this as a 2.5% damage bonus. This does stack with Temper though, so you can get the damage bonus from both. However, none of these skills impact sticky, slicing, or cluster ammo. Dango Fighter reduces the stamina cost of blocking, which could be okay for shield heavy bowgun, but isn't really worth taking over the damage boosters, since bowguns rarely have you using up your stamina anyways. Dango Weakener messes with some back-end values that are kind of weird. So, let's say theoretically a monster's default health value is 6,000. At the start of every hunt, the game is going to roll a dice that can give the monster anywhere from up to 1,000 bonus health or with up to 1,000 less health than normal. So the minimum possible health is 5,000, but the maximum possible is 7,000. So even though 6,000 is the default health, you might be in a hunt where a monster only has 5,400. Weakener basically makes it so the game will never give any bonus health above the base value. It'll make sure that number never goes above 6,000. It also increases the rounding for negative HP values. It'll round it to either negative 500 or up to negative 1,000. Dango Booster is just a flat attack and defense buff. It lasts for 10 minutes even if you faint during a fight, but it's only +9 raw attack damage. It's not a percentage buff. Now for the big one, Adrenaline and Moxie. Adrenaline boosts your attack damage by 35% when you are at quote-unquote low health, which I think is around like 5%. Moxie will save you from being killed and leave you at 1 HP once per fight. You have to be above a certain HP threshold though, which is shown at the top of the screen. These skills both come from the same Dango, so it's a 2-for-1. However, they don't stack with the armor skill Heroics, which basically does the exact same thing. This basically makes Heroics worthless since you can just eat the Dango. These skills are the basis for all speedruns and are going to enable you to do some insane strats that you wouldn't normally be able to pull off. Monsters fall over as if they're stunned at certain HP thresholds, and if you've ever seen a video where someone chain stuns a monster without stickies, this is how. It's incredibly difficult to pull off without Moxie and Adrenaline. It's also very dangerous because, obviously, you're one hit from death the entire time. Unless you're playing at a level so high that honestly you don't even need this guy in the first place, I would ignore this. Unless, of course, you're having trouble with fights and being saved from death once is actually something you'd benefit from. So, if you're doing sticky ammo, Slugger, Bombardier, and Weakener. If you're doing slicing ammo, go Booster, Weakener, and then Moxie or even like Dango Carving. For any other ammo type, it's Temper, Marksman, and then either Booster or Weakener. Now, it can be kind of annoying to rely on RNG for these things to activate, so you want to farm Dango tickets. All you have to do for this is go to the Argosy, buy a bunch of raw meat, then bring it to the canteen. Select Motley Mix and have them cook all of it, and then the Dango girl will hand you a bunch of tickets afterwards. Okay, at this point this video has definitely gone on long enough, so thanks for watching. Obviously, I put way more effort into this one than I did with the Nier video. It took me like 3 full weeks to record over 100 gigabytes of footage, and then that's also on top of the, like I said, 16,000 word script. Also, I thought this game was coming out on the 15th, but it turns out it is coming out on the 12th, and so now that it is 4 PM on January 11th, I am now scrambling to finish this. So, hope this helps. Now you are the Monster Hunter.
Yes, yes.